Thank you guys. Thank you for being here today. As I stated, my name is Alisha Curtin. I am a firearms instructor. I do teach across all platforms, pistol, shotgun, rifle. I do teach tactical shooting as well as marksmanship and just general firearms safety training as well. And what I'm here to talk about today is specifically situational awareness. And although we are titling this situational awareness for teens, really the content is applicable to all ages. So I'm glad you guys are all here. And so let's go ahead and get started. So if I was to say to you, hey, pay attention to the world around you, pay attention. What kind of things are you going to kind of think of? What's going to come to mind? Could it be something kind of maybe something like this? Maybe something you see on social media. Maybe something you saw and cross-stitched on grandma's wall. Something about kind of taking the time to to smell the flowers and taking the world around you. However, when I say pay attention and to be mindful of what's around you and what's surrounding you, what I actually instead want you to start kind of thinking of is maybe more something like this. There are risks and hazards that we come across and that it will kind of cross our paths all the time throughout the day, everywhere that we go. Some of them are going to be just elements of circumstance. It could be maybe a moving vehicle that we don't notice. Maybe we're like that guy that was on his cell phone not paying attention. Maybe we are just walking down the street and we're so hyper-focused on something in our hands, or maybe we're preoccupied with thoughts, we don't notice them coming up behind us. So whether it's going to be something from nature or for something from man, there are risks that we are going to be potentially going to fall prey to as we go about our normal day. And so the idea is that I want to give you guys and have discussion, talk about tools, teach some skills and some tactics, maybe bring to mind some thoughts and some ways of thinking that you might not have thought of before. And so just kind of change your mindset just a bit. When it comes to situational awareness, you may not realize it, but you actually have a number of tools. Now, do we have the power 100% of the time to stop a threat? No. We can't 100% of the time guarantee that we're going to be able to defend ourselves and stop or prevent a threat. Okay. However, we do have built-in tools at our disposal that if we take the time to use them and we implement them, we can greatly reduce our risk. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So some of those tools are going to be making yourself a bad victim, right? So when it comes to being a bad victim, what I mean is that predators and those that are looking to seek out and to take advantage of people, whether it's going to be through theft or physical harm, they are going to be looking for the perfect victim. We're going to talk about how to be a bad victim because that's not what we want. We don't want to be that target. We're talking about paying attention. If you're a fan of John Correa and Act of Self-Protection, you've probably heard the term that paying attention buys you time buys you options. We're going to get more into that. And of course, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about defensive deterrence because we are kind of tailoring this more specifically to teens. We'll talk about firearms, but we're not going to go so into depth into that. We are going to talk about some of the things, for example, such as pepper spray, which if you're not aware, is legal for them to have and to carry with parental permission from the age of 16 up. Know, though, that liability does fall upon the parent should they have to use it, whether it was defensive or just a teen being a teen, kind of dare being kind of silly or careless, the parent is liable. So there is a risk to the parent that goes with that. However, legally speaking, the youth can legally carry pepper spray with parental permission. All right, so let's talk about that bad victim, right? So how do we not make ourselves to become a good victim? So the idea is that you want to carry yourself with confidence. Anybody that's going to be a predator that's going to approach or make an attempt on you, they're going to see you usually from afar. And if what they see from afar is that they see confidence, they are less likely to think that you're a good victim. Hold your head high. As people come your way, maybe they're crossing your path, make eye contact. A good victim is going to be looking down, whether it's because they are just uncomfortable or maybe they're distracted by a phone, right? Maybe they are just not confident in themselves and they feel uncomfortable. They don't want to look people in the face. Make eye contact. And if you don't feel that confidence, fake it. Fake it. Hold your head high. You walk out the door somewhere, hold your head high. Take a look at your surroundings, but hold that head high. They're looking for that victim with that head down. And don't be afraid to be firm. Don't be afraid to, so many of us are raised with the ideology that we need to be polite, that we need to be respectful, we need to be kind. If there is a situation that arises and you feel that you are at risk, don't be afraid to use your voice. Don't be afraid to be firm. It's okay to be firm and to assert yourself, and it actually is not as rude as you may think. It's from self-preservation, self-protection. Don't be afraid to be loud. Don't be afraid to defend yourself. If a threat does approach, say a physical threat, let's say that maybe somebody is attempting to abduct, right? You have an option, you have a choice. And a couple of those choices are, one, you can let yourself be taken, you can be compliant, right? Not upset them. But here's the thing, if you're going to be taken to a secondary location, hey Bill, it's not going to get any better. Don't ever let yourself be taken to a secondary location. Kick, fight, scream, use your voice. Don't be afraid to yell. Don't be afraid to yell and assert yourself. Draw attention. One thing that a predator does not want, they don't want eyes looking at them. They're going to pick someone they can scoop up quietly and quickly. They're not going to pick that person that's going to fight. Be that person that's going to fight. If you haven't already, I would highly encourage you to take some self-defense classes. And I don't even care what they are, right? There's jujitsu, which is going to be a lot more grappling and ground fighting. There's Krav Maga, which is kind of a hybrid of a lot of different martial arts. There's Muay Thai, that's more kicking and more foot-based. There's even karate, there's the Kempo, there's so many. Even if the techniques themselves seem more dance-like and more pretty and fluff, I guarantee you there's a confidence and there's an awareness and a way that you're going to carry yourself that's still going to come from that. Take those classes, take advantage of all the classes that you can. These two kids up here, I know them, I trained with their dad. And so, I've seen these kids grow for the last few years, and there's an awareness, there's a confidence that comes from that. Take advantage of those opportunities. If you've not heard of them before, we're going to talk a little bit about Cooper's Code of Awareness. Jeff Cooper was a law enforcement man, a military man, and he created this color system. Maybe that you've heard of it, but you're not aware of why or the history or the foundation behind it, but it's a code of colors. His code went from white to yellow to orange to red. His did not include black. Black is a recent addition. We'll get to that. The idea is giving and assigning a structure to these different mindsets and the way that we think and the way we perceive things and the way that we behave and the way that we pay attention. So he gave the color white. White is going to be that you are unaware. You're basically daydreaming. You're distracted. Maybe you're sitting with a friend deep in conversation, having great discussions. Maybe you're sitting here on your phone, which a lot of us do, kids and adults alike, right? We have this device that's constantly at the end of our fingertips. It's in our pockets. It's always with us. It goes everywhere we go for most of us. It's so easy to get distracted, to get so involved in what we're looking at that we forget about the world around us. So the idea of white is that you are not paying attention. If someone were to walk up to you, you wouldn't even notice. Doesn't matter what direction they're coming from. You are not focused, you're not paying attention, you're not seeing anything in the world around you. Yellow is that you are alert. You're paying attention. You're not necessarily panicked or stressed. You're relaxed, but your eyes are scanning the room. You're scanning and you're looking, you're paying attention. You don't have a distraction here in front of you. You're paying attention. Orange, that's what we kick to when we see a threat. When we're in yellow, if we make an observation that we see something that just kind of tickles our spidey sense, something that just kind of doesn't sit well with us. It could be something obvious, or it could be something that we just in our gut, we don't feel is quite right. All of those things are going to kick us into orange. Orange is going to be that I have spotted something. I've seen something that's not quite right. I don't like it. I'm not comfortable with it. And I'm going to start formulating a plan. Maybe I'm walking down the street and there's someone coming at me. They just kind of have a look to them, the way that they're carrying themselves. I'm uncomfortable with it. Okay, I'm in orange. I'm going to start formulating what I'm going to do. Am I going to cross the street so that I get some space and some distance? Am I going to duck into a store? You're formulating, what am I going to do? And if this goes bad, how am I going to respond to that? But the idea is that we want to be preventative and we want to use our awareness to help us to formulate plans. Remember, time buys you options. So if you're paying attention, you have the opportunity to see so many threats while they are still far off The further off they are, the more opportunities for options that you have. If the threat is upon you, it's right in your personal space. I don't have a whole lot of options. But if my threat is coming down those stairs, I might have a few more options than I would if he was right here in my personal space. So pay attention. By paying attention, you allow yourself to make these observations and to see things as they're coming at you, and it gives you a more opportunity for options on how you're going to handle it. Red. This is the, it's kicked up. Not only did we sense a threat in orange, red, the threat is here, it's confirmed, we know that it's bad, all right? Maybe we're walking down the street, someone's pulled a knife, and he's here and he's telling me, give me your wallet, give me all your money, give me your phone, whatever it may be. That threat is confirmed, and it's now. Red is your reactionary time. Orange was your planning and your potential beginning of following that preventative plan. Red is your action. Red is my life is at risk. Red is it's going down, and I have to do something right now. And there's a plethora of options that you have based on the spacing and the time of when you made that observation. Black is the new one. Black is new. It was not part of the original code. Black is going to be that freeze. I'm sure you've all heard the term freeze, right? Freeze, fight, or flight. Everybody in a stressful situation, adrenaline starts flowing. We are all going to have different reactions to that. Some of us get amped up and are ready to fight, ready to defend. Others panic and freeze. Maybe they can't even scream. They can't get words out. They can't move. Their brain just kind of shuts down. Their computer power is down. So that is black. That is black. Black is worrisome. Black is concerning. You're not going to know if you're going to kick into black until the situation happens. But I guarantee you, the more that you train, the more that you practice, the more that you have the mindset and you're paying attention to your world. Maybe you take a defensive class. You go and you meet with other people and you have these discussions. You're going to be a little bit better prepared. Your skill set's going to be a little bit more ready. You're less likely to kick into black. But you're not going to know until that situation comes, unfortunately. So what are some everyday things that are going to decrease our ability to be paying attention? I mentioned the phones. That's a given, right? That's an easy one. What are some other things that might be a distraction to us? Headphones, absolutely. How many people do you see jogging or running or just maybe in the stores with those earbuds in, right? How are they able to pay attention to the world around them if they can't hear what's happening? If someone was to be approaching them from the rear, which is how a lot of these predators are going to come, they're not going to know. They're not going to hear it until the threat is right on them. And what are their options going to be when the threat is on them? Little to none. Unless you've got some really good hand-to-hand combat skills, some grappling skills, you're not going to have a whole lot of great options, right? So good. That's fantastic. Any others you can think of? Children, people, right, having to take care of, yeah, as a parent, absolutely. You got the diaper bag, you got the thing, and even as they get older, you have sippy cups, you have toys, you've got snacks in your bag, you're juggling all these things, you have things in your hands, you have little ones you have to keep track of. Absolutely. The little ones, first of all, they make their own noise, so they can kind of distract and kind of hide any approaching sounds, but your focus is on them. Absolutely. What can we do about that? Do we have a whole lot of options? See, the headphone with earbuds, right? We can take one of those out or not use them at all would be even better, right? But with children, can't always just leave one in the car, right? So we may not have, there are going to be times to where we don't have a whole lot of options. But the thing is, if we are mindful and aware, I have this distraction and I know that I have it, I need to be a little bit more hyper-focused. Maybe I make decisions on, maybe I don't go a certain place. Maybe I bring a friend with me to help watch the kids. So the idea is that we make choices when we can. Do we always have the flexibility to make those types of options or those types of choices? We don't always have that luxury. But when you do, take advantage of it. And if you're in a bind and you're stuck and you just don't have any other options, be hyper-vigilant, and pay attention. So when you step out of a door, every time I walk out, I walk up these stairs and I go up in there, the first thing I do when I approach the top of those stairs is I scan. I just go from one side to the other and I scan. I'm scanning the room. I step out of this building and I go to the parking lot. Before I step through that threshold, I'm already scanning the parking lot. Scanning. I've got children with me. I have 4 kids of my own. I know what it is to have those little hands and to have to hold and to carry babies and toddlers and children and be mindful. Are they running off? Are they with me? Scan. Scan, because your threats are going to come from the outside. Scan. Get a preliminary view of what you're walking into. Scan that space. How can we do better? So we've talked about some of those options, right? So if you happen to be one of those people that likes to wear those headphones, first of all, maybe you condition yourself to maybe do it only at home, right? If you absolutely feel like you have to have something, maybe just wear one instead of both, right? That is an option. On the range, not all of you, I mean, you're here at a gun show, so I think the odds are pretty good. You guys are all shooters. On the range, I like to use electronic ears. I only will use electronic ears. I like to hear what's going on around me. If you've never used electronic ears, the way that they work is they have a decibel cutoff on there. Sounds above a certain decibel get dampened. Things that are at a lower decibel, like voices, will still come through. You can hear conversations. You can hear people. If there's a situation brewing or something happening, I'm more aware than if I've got those cheaper outer ears that just completely block off everything, right? Be aware. Sound, sight, pay attention. Use your eyes, use your ears, use all of your senses. Pay attention. Absolutely. So when it comes to paying attention, remember, time buys you options. Let's talk about spacing. So I've marked here on the floor. There's some tape here in the aisle. So if I were to be here and there's these things called reactionary zones. If I'm here, that black piece of tape all the way back down there by that bar, that's marking the 24-foot mark. So just about 20, so Rich there at that bar, he's about 25, 26 feet, around there, right? So if you take a look, 24, 25, 26 feet, this is going to, and beyond, is going to give you the most reaction time. So look at that spacing, look at that. From there, can he close in that gap? Can he run at me? Could he have a knife? Absolutely, he could, right? But at that distance, if I'm paying attention, right, there is an opportunity for me to kind of have some potential things that I can do. I can either get myself off the X, right? See how he's going to behave. Because if he's just going to come barreling running through, it might be that he sees a child in the street that's going to get ready to get hit by a car. He's running to go help that child. If I get off that X and his intent is to go help a child, he's going to run right past me, right? If I get off that X and he runs and all of a sudden he makes a turn, I know that he is not having good intentions. He is coming for me. Maybe I'm the one that's getting ready to hit by a car. It's not always bad intent. So we're paying attention to our surroundings. We're paying attention if I'm in the street. Bad place, I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings. The idea is that at 24, 25 feet and beyond, you have the most time. Here at 12 to 25 feet, not as much. You have some time. Here in the green zone, which is 6 to 12 feet. So where Rich is right now, he's at the 6-foot mark. So 6 to 12 feet, that is not a whole lot of distance. If he was to lunge or to come at me with a weapon with his bare hands, if he was to draw a firearm, there's not a whole lot of space or distance or time for me to respond or react with anything really efficiently. I'm going to be defending my life, but I'm going to be at a deficit. All right. So, and then closest is going to be, of course, 6 feet and less. So if you were to kind of think about these spaces in relationship, from a relationship perspective, 0 to 6 feet, that's going to be your personal space for friends, right? Close friends. 6 feet up to about 12 or so, we kind of think of that as more acquaintance. These are people that you know that you might have conversations with, maybe business associates. Some people are a little bit more friendly than others, so some of these ranges are going to have some variance. However, I want you to be aware that a stranger coming into your close personal space without a justified reason, that should be a cause for alarm, cause for concern. Why are they there? What is going on? 12 plus feet, we kind of think of that as stranger distance, stranger danger, right? So be mindful when these people have these relationships with you or a lack of relationship, we should have a comfort zone, a range of what I find comfortable and what you find comfortable. And your comfort level might be a little bit different than mine, but be mindful, a stranger approaching you, coming right up into your personal space, maybe trying to put their arm around you right up in your space, that's not okay. Right? There's some intent there that is not appropriate, whether it's harm or just bad behavior. We're not going to know. You don't want to take that risk. So the idea is reactionary zones. So when it comes to time and options, I want to kind of put you guys, I'm going to ask for some volunteers, actually. I'm going to put together some scenarios, and I would like to see how you guys would respond. So a little bit of interaction here. What I'm going to do is I have these cards. And on these cards are different scenarios. And we can go ahead and use these markings on the floor because I may give you a distance. Let's say that this is what you see, and you see this and you are 12 feet away. The idea is I'm going to flash this card to the one volunteer that comes up. I will show the card to the audience first so that everybody will see what they see before they see it. And the idea is I want to see what they're thinking. Where do they go? What is their mindset? And what is their first good decision that they're going to make in response to that? All right, so because we were focusing from a teen perspective, your only tools. So I do have a cell phone up in here. So if at any point you would make a phone call, whether it be to 911, to your mom, whatever it may be, you're going to pick that up and you're going to do it. I will interact as that other person in the scenario. I'm going to be potentially the bad guy or the person on the street. Because at 16 and up, you potentially could be allowed to have pepper spray. These are inert pepper sprays. I'm your bad guy if necessary. You spray me, okay? But before we get into that, really quickly, when it comes to these observations that we make from people, if someone is going to be a threat to us, to harm us, what part of their body should we be looking at most? Where should our focus be? Hands, right? Threats come from hands, right? Do people tend to hit with their head? Could they? Yeah. Do they? More often, no, right? Their headbutts are not going to be the primary threat. Hands, whether it's going to be a choke or a punch, hands. If it's going to be a firearm, okay, that's going to be drawn from the hands. Not only the hands are the portion of their body that they are going to be using to implement their intent. However, what other part of their body is a majority of these threats going to come from? Waist. Whether it's knife in the pocket, whether it's firearm tucked in the pants or holstered, even to the rear. So I want you to think of this band around the person. That's where a majority of your threats are going to come from. If they have their hands hidden in their pockets. What's the first thing law enforcement says when they encounter people if they have their hands in their pockets, right? Hands in your pockets, right? Because threats are going to come from hidden places, right? If I have a firearm on me and my intent is to do harm, right? I'm going to have to draw that firearm. It's going to have to be drawn from somewhere. This tends to be the zone where a majority of people will keep their firearm. Now, do ankle holsters exist? Yes. How often have you seen an ankle holster? On TV, right? Right. So, shoulder holsters, do they exist? Yes. How often do you actually legitimately see them? You don't. Whether they're holstered or just simply kind of going street style, the threat is going to tend to come from this portion, either the pockets or the waistband. So your focus is here. When I present these cards, there might be a time to where be mindful of that. If there's a person, look at that. Look at that. Okay? All right. Let's have a little bit of fun. Any volunteers to come on up first? I'll call on somebody if not. I already know who I'm going to call on. Come on up. All right, so what I'm going to do, thank you.
Last one in.
Perfect. I love it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show to you here in just a moment. I'm going to show the audience first. And then when it is time, I'm going to give you, if pertinent, any background information that you may or may not need. Okay? It could be spacing or timing. It could be a time of day. It could be a distraction you have with you, whatever it may be. If appropriate, I will tell it to you. And the idea is that I want to know you have 5 seconds to look at this card, and then I'm going to take it away. And I want you to tell us, and I actually would love for you to act it out. For example, if you would pick up that phone, 911, right, and I'll be your operator, okay? If it's going to be an interaction where there's a conversation, I'm going to be that conversation with you, and I want you to have that conversation. All right? So let's pick a card. Excuse me, I'm actually going to go over here. Because we have an adult. I had pulled the younger kid cards. Let's pull an adult card. They were going to be voluntold next. All right. All right. Mm-hmm. I've seen you before. I've seen At a range? Do you go to ranges? Probably. I worked with you.
It was an obvious issue.
Yeah, but I think didn't you also do the tactical hive shoot at the studio dinner house? I was there for that. Yeah, it's like I recognize you. Yep. All right, you ready? All right. So again.
All right.
So again, so the idea is just I'm going to present a potential real life situation, and you're going to make whatever decision that you feel is appropriate. All right. This is not going to come into play. I'll tell you now. This doesn't come into play. Taking that out. All right, you ready?
Ready.
Hey, lady, got $1? Could be $1. Come on, just $1. Come on. Come on. $1, 50 cents. Come on.
Change on me.
Come on. Come on. You got to have something. Come on. Come on. You got a nice car. Just so you get a nice car. Come on. Come on.
You're invading my space.
Good. Good. Right. So initially, right, the person was just simply, we're assuming potentially, possibly homeless, right? Or just down as like, yeah, good. Good. So the idea is that you never know how these interactions are going to go, right? So it's good. So what did she do? She backed off. She started to create space, right? I heard you say sorry, right? So you had options on how you could have responded to that. You could have gotten colorful with your language and back the bleepy bleep up, leave me alone, right? What would that have done? Potentially escalated, right? So there's this concept, this idea of not only we're paying attention, but when an opportunity or threat or situation arises, we have a choice in how we respond. We can get inflammatory and create a bigger problem, right? Or we can choose to de-escalate. I'm sorry is pretty powerful, right? Even if you don't really mean it, right? So the idea of de-escalation, pay attention. When something shows as being potentially harmful or uncomfortable for you, you backed away. You're like, hey, I'm sorry. You kind of took like a passive, right? And did you expect that? No, right? And that's the thing is you never know what to expect, right? We come across people all the time, whether it's someone on a street corner while you're in your vehicle, you're walking down the street, you're in the mall, whatever it may be. You never know how these interactions are going to go. So the idea is pay attention. If this is a situation you don't even want to be involved in, you're going to, if you don't want to be if you don't want to be potentially in these situations, right? You spot something from afar because you're in yellow because you're paying attention. You can choose to deviate and change course, right? You can choose to duck into somewhere. You can choose you're going to have to pick from your options in that moment, right? Whatever you have available to you, make some choices. Good, good, good. All right, Julian, you're up. All right, Julian, this is your home, and it normally is in perfect condition and is not in disrepair. All right? I'm just giving you the background for now. All right? I know it's dark in here. I should have brought my flashlight. Mine I left in my car because I had it in my gear bag. There we go. Always prepared. How many of you have flashlights on you? Right?
In the car.
Right? On the phone, absolutely. We all pretty much have flashlights with us now, don't we? Thank you. I can use my phone. I didn't even think of that. All right. So the idea is, Julian, is that let's say you come home from school. Your home is normally in perfect condition, right? You walk up to your home to go to your front door. Come on over. This is what you see. Let's say you have a cell phone in your pocket. Are we going to stand right here and do that? What are we going to do?
I'm going to go a bit old.
Okay.
Call on my parents.
Call your parents. Okay. So if you weren't able to see, now why did you make that choice?
I did that because I wanted to know if they left the garage open, and then if they didn't, I would call 911 to say something.
So what did you see? What did you see in the picture?
The garage is somewhat open.
Okay. And is it open normally?
No.
Okay. So what the card shows, if you were looking at it, take a look at it again. What do you see?
What like somebody broke in?
Looks like somebody broke in, right? So when we showed this card, especially to a classroom full of CCW people, you know what a lot of them want to do? Right? They want a room clear. They want to save the day. Good. So the idea is that, first of all, you know how you're going to win every fight? You don't accept the invitation, right? So when you have an opportunity, unless you hear blood-curdling screams coming from inside this garage or something that you feel like you have to be drawn into, don't invite trouble. There is no reason to enter into this. Now, if there's something that shows that has you concerned that you see, make some choices and make good choices. First of all, protect yourself first, right? So he picked up the phone. Now, initially he stood here, but it may have been because of, just in the scenario, and I cued him. The idea is get yourself to safety, make that call, right? This is a sign here. This is not just the garage door left open. This has been pried or lifted or unnaturally raised in some way, right? There's some harm. Now, could it have been mom or dad? Yeah, it could have been, but we don't know. We're not going to enter and go in, right? We're going to make a phone call. It was good. He said he's going to call mom or dad first. Is this necessarily a 911? We don't know. Call mom or dad first. Maybe they broke it, right? Right? It does happen, right? What's that? It does happen. Mom and dad do occasionally break things. Absolutely. All right, next. All right, so here's his card.
Okay.
Where's something? Yeah.
What's your name? Michael. Michael, okay. See, we met a couple times, but I don't know your name. All right, so Michael, so you are walking down the street and at approximately 12 feet. So from where we are standing to that second tape is where you, actually, no, I'm gonna give you to that back tape. I think this one you would see from further. So basically from here to that bar, right? So you're walking down the street and this is what you see. You ready? Actually, I think a little bit of more background. Do you conceal carry? Okay. We're obviously not going to draw on here, right? In a normal classroom with this training, we actually do use SIRT pistols, and we actually would draw on actually when appropriate. If that's a situation that if you conceal carry and that's something real that you would do, we actually do go forward and we reenact that as well. We're not doing that here today because we're not. All right.
Is it daytime or nighttime?
Good question. This is daytime. This is daytime. So because we're not going live with training firearms, SIRT pistols, things like that, if you would at any point use that, just verbally state it for me. Cool? All right, this is what you see. Here to that last tape near the bar. What are you gonna do?
If he hasn't said anything to me,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm gonna remain observant of where he is, the distance that he's at.
Are you gonna make any movements yourself?
I would. Well, one thing I do typically do is I'll usually, because I do conceal, I usually have my thumb tucked in my shirt,
Good.
just ready, and then I'll just keep here, and I will keep my hands just kind of ready, but I'll just remain observant. I'll maintain like whatever. That's a safe distance. He can't hurt me with that.
Right.
From there.
Good.
Not
Okay.
from there.
Good. Okay.
So long as he stays that way, if he continues walking along and stays away, then I can maintain that same distance. If he approaches, then as the distance closes, that's when things start changing. Dependent.
Your mentality changes.
Yeah.
Now, could this guy potentially be coming home from baseball practice? Maybe he's a coach.
Not the way that he was holding that.
And do you notice any other gear? Is he dressed appropriately for being a coach?
No baseball gear.
Take all that information in. Does the situation fit? He's in street clothes, jeans and a leather type jacket. not wearing sports gear. He doesn't have a sports bag. Take the picture in as a whole and look at the way that he's holding it. Does he have good intent being on the street with what he has in his hands in that condition? Absolutely not. So the idea is take the picture in as a whole. At the distance, he has options, right? So is a bat a deadly tool? Absolutely. Is it deadly from here to that bar? No. So would he be justified in drawing his concealed firearm? No, right? Not at this point. Now, if this threat were to move in and continue to approach, and this with the bat in this position, right? There does come a time to where the drawing would potentially be justified, right? If he chooses to drop this bat, or maybe he chooses to hang it different, there's lots of legalities that come into that. The idea is, if you feel threatened with death or great bodily harm, legally speaking, there comes a time where you are justified in defending yourself and taking that measure, but it has to be a force that is going to be justified for that self-defense measure that you take. The idea is observations. So what I was looking for with this is I want to know, did he go there and say, well, he's probably just coming home from baseball practice? Look in full, look at the situation, look at the picture. He is not, right? This is someone that means harm. Good, all right. What's that?
iPad again?
I don't know. Good, good. Hey, I figured it out. Look at that. I didn't even have to ask one of the kids to do it. All right. Good. So the idea is those zones, pay attention. Space matters, time matters. When you have the opportunity to make a lesser choice, make that lesser choice. Let's take a minute and talk a little bit about pepper spray. Okay, pepper spray is legally able to be used at a lesser risk of death or great bodily harm. The level of justification is different. Is pepper spray considered deadly force? No. So therefore, you don't have to be at risk of death or great bodily injury to feel justified in using it, right? If you are fearful for your life, you're fearful that you are going to be put at risk, that you're going to be harmed, someone is not laying off of what you've asked them to do, and you are at great you're at fear of harm, you can legally and justifiably use it. This is going to be what a lot of people will, if anybody ever been pepper sprayed before? Anybody? Right? So it does not, now unless you have a very unique allergy, it is not going to be life-threatening to you, although you're going to feel like you want to die, right? Right? And those effects can last upwards of an hour. Those acute, really intense response can last upwards of an hour. The lingering effects can last up to 24 hours, maybe a little bit longer for some people. So the idea is that while you were actively under that spray, that effect, so if you have to use pepper spray to defend your life, this is what the person's going to be feeling. They're going to be fear that they may not be able to see. They're going to go blind. Will they? No. Are they going to fear it? In that moment, they will. They're going to feel like they can't breathe. All right. So the capsaicin has a physical response in the reaction in the body. It makes them feel as though they're struggling to breathe. Are they struggling? No. Will they feel like it? Yeah. They're going to have an inability to function. They're going to tend to double over. They're going to tend to maybe put their hands up to their face. Their idea is they're no longer going to fight. They're no longer going to be a threat to you. They don't have the capacity to fight. You've just taken the fight right out of them. There you go. And they're also going to panic a little bit. Right? All right, so just a quick refresher and reminder, we have the codes of awareness. We have white, that's unaware and unprepared. You can think of that as tuned out or daydreaming. Now, we've talked about the colors, and I've made white sound really bad, right? From a defensive perspective. Is it ever okay to be in white? Absolutely. Now, it might sound like yellow is where you want to live, right? However, if we are constantly in yellow, your mind's never going to get a rest. Is it okay to be in white? It is, but you need to be careful when and where you do it. When you come out of a grocery store and it's time to go home and you hear your phone chime because you got a text, is sitting in your car in the parking lot a really good, appropriate, safe place to be checking that text message and to be responding, and then you get distracted and next thing you know you're on YouTube. And All of those, and I guarantee you people do it every day, right? So some of us in this room probably even do it. So the idea is when you are going to be in white, which your brain and your mind does need that time. It needs that downtime. It needs that rest time. Be careful when and where you do it. Where could be a safe place to be in white? Home. Home. You should be safe in your home. Lock your doors, right? But home is your safe zone. That's where you should be safe in white. Maybe you are at a friend's home, right? So the idea is be mindful and careful when you choose to be in white, and make sure that you're in a safe space. And what that safe space could be is going to vary based on your situation, but be mindful of it. Don't be out on a busy street sitting on a park bench waiting for the bus on your phone. Looking down, not paying attention to the world around you. Because when you're not paying attention, you're going to make yourself a good what? A good victim. They're looking for someone that's distracted, someone that's not paying attention. So yellow, that's where you're aware and prepared. You have good situational awareness. You're scanning the space. You're scanning the room. You're just paying attention, right? Do I want you to live in fear? Absolutely not. But the idea is, think of this as power. Think of this as when we are aware, we feel that we have power to be proactive in helping to keep ourselves safe. There should be power that comes from that, not fear. I don't want you to live in fear. The idea is I want you to feel empowered and to feel safe. And the way that we do that is we pay attention to the world around us. All right, orange is specifically identified as a threat. You were in yellow, you saw something. It could be a person. It could be a charging rhino that escaped from the zoo. It could be anything. It's going to be something because you were paying attention that you saw and you observed and you see as a potential threat, and you should be formulating what? A plan. Formulate a plan. If that person continues towards me, what am I going to do? If I step off this X to kind of test the situation and he follows me, what am I going to do? Right? If I step into the store, what am I going to do when I get into the store? Maybe I go and I approach a clerk and I let them know that I'm concerned. I want to, please call 911. Can you hide me? Something like that. Formulate a plan, whatever it is that's appropriate for that threat. And you need to and kind of formulate a plan, and if then, and do it. Red, that's where it's go time. You've identified that threat and it's for sure coming your way. You're at risk, and that's go time. Whether it's if you conceal, whether it's drawing and using that firearm. If you don't have a firearm, or maybe it's not an appropriate level, maybe you're pulling your pepper spray, right? Whatever it is, it's go time. And when you do it, you go with all of your might. Don't be afraid to be loud, draw attention. Predators don't like it. They don't like that attention. They don't like eyes looking at them. If you start making a ruckus, there's a good chance they might start, kind of turning off and then finding someone else. Now, do we want to push that off on someone else? No, but we need it not to be us, right? There's only so much that's in our power, right? Make that 911 phone call. Be a good witness. So make some observations. What is that person wearing? Maybe you duck into that store, but were you paying enough attention to see what their clothing was to describe them? Okay, what were they wearing? What was their race? How tall approximately were they? Did they appear to be 20 or 50? How old were they? Be a good witness, give good information, pay attention, because those details can matter and they can make a difference. Black, again, that's the panic, frozen, you're in shock, and that's just going to be a breakdown of your response, and you're not going to know how you're going to react and if you're going to go into black until, unfortunately, it happens. But the idea is that if you think, you train, you practice, you talk about it, you live it, the hope is that you're less likely to go into black, but unfortunately, you're not going to know until it hits. All right. Any questions so far for me? Any thoughts? Does anybody have any stories of observations they've made that they'd like to share? If you have and you're not comfortable sharing, by no means are you obligated. I'm just curious, has anybody come across anything or had any situations where you made some observations and you took action, whatever it may be?
When I was 15,
Mm-hmm.
I went for a walk to accompany a friend to a bus station. And on the way over, I noticed there was a man just riding around on a bicycle. He was asking for the time.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect like for you to pick the phone. And when you pull out the phone, he will snatch from your hand. But I didn't pay notice of it. I didn't carry anything with me.
Mm-hmm.
I was walking to the bus stop. But on the way back, I was alone.
Ah.
It was nighttime, it was in the winter. The sun went down really fast. And when I got in front of my house, the same man rode over and he stopped me in my tracks. He put his bike in front of me, and he asked me to turn on my pockets to give him everything that I had. But since I didn't have anything, he just ran off, basically.
Wow.
But I didn't notice. I was completely dumbfounded because I really thought in my mind that he really just wanted to tell the time. Like even it was a 30-minute walk at most.
Yeah.
I didn't even understand what you would want.
So think about this, and that's a great example. So think of this from that reactionary zone. Someone asking you the time. We want to be helpful. We're raised to be polite. Remember, we want to be helpful. We want to be kind. He needs some help. I want to help him. So people will often use our soft spot for kindness to our disadvantage, right? And someone asking the time, well, kind of you can think of it as disarming you. So for a lot of us, it may be like you said, you might reach into your pocket to get your phone to be able to tell them what time if you're not wearing a watch, whatever it may be. So it's a tool that they use to kind of get you off your game, to kind of take your focus off of him, and now you're here or you're here, whatever it may be, and your focus has changed, and you are now potentially going to be someone that they can take advantage of, right?
But that's the thing. Even though I was aware of him
Mhm.
at the time,
Right.
I never thought of him as any threat.
And you said he was riding a bike around and just kind of in the same general area. Was that normal?
Well, that's the thing. Anyone can ride a bike.
Right. Right.
There were people walking around. But when I came back, I was completely alone by myself.
And he was still in the same area on the bike?
Bus stop.
Right.
So on the way back, I was completely alone.
Absolutely.
So, and again, I was also disarmed because I didn't have anything on me.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, I also thought myself was safe.
'Cause you didn't have
if
any.
To rob me, they wouldn't have anything to steal.
And that's hard too, because here's the thing, is the robber going to know that you don't have anything on you? I have teenage daughters. You know how many times, regardless of how many times I tell them, they leave a purse in my car? And you know what their answer is? There's nothing in it. There's nothing in it. The bad guy doesn't know that. They see something that they potentially want. They're not going to have x-ray vision and know what's in it. They can't see in your pockets, right? So any of us at any time, even though we think we're safe because we don't have something that we think they may want, the thing is, you were always at risk because they're not going to know that. And so I'm glad that you were okay and that you were able to kind of respond in the way that you did and kept you safe. And that's important. So talking about people and their responses. So like your example, as you were telling that, the first thing that I kind of honed in on, as you said, he was running his bike kind of in the same general area.
It was a long straight line.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, going back and forth.
Yeah, that right there to me was like my first thing that went off my little spidey sense on that one right there, right? Mm-hmm.
I didn't think of it.
Yep. Think of what's normal. What would a normal, reasonable person do? Would a normal, reasonable person be, kind of like looping like that? That's a little odd, right? When it comes to people's behavior, there are things that are called furtive gestures. I'm sure we've all seen surveillance videos of robberies or beatings and fights. What are some of the things that assailants tend to do right before they proactively take action and to throw that first punch that's not expected? Men and women have different tells. They're looking around who's going to be a witness, who might be someone else that might try to jump in and save this guy, who's around, who might be my second person I have to fight. So yeah, they're looking around. Are there cameras? Are there people watching that might call, and stop this? What else?
Random speech, they'll say stuff.
They might use words to kind of distract, right? And the things that aren't necessarily appropriate. They might tend to hike up their pants right before they fight. Men tend to do that.
Or they'll say something that's a form of intimidation.
Right. They're kind of trying to egg you on to kind of start to raise your fist and maybe be the first, to kind of instigate you to join their fight. Remember, the one you're going to win is the one you don't accept the invite to, right? Women tend to have different tells. What do women do? Tie their hair up, right? Might take off an earring or two, right? So maybe taking off a shoe, right? All seen Jerry Springer. So men and women are going to have different tells. Know what to look for. Pay attention to those things. You might be like, why is that guy hiking up his pants? So, looking around. They also will tend to groom themselves. You might start seeing them running their hands through their hair. That's kind of a nervous tell that they don't realize they're doing. And it's just kind of more of a comforting thing that they're trying to do because they're getting ready to do something that they're a little bit nervous about. They have tells, right? So the The key is pay attention, be observant, look for those things, those threats.